Hey everybody, it's Seti the Wind Sage, and welcome back to Let's Play Kindred Spirits on the Roof. In the last episode, we took care of, Koba's free time events, and yeah, they were pretty interesting events. It actually, well, I don't necessarily have a higher opinion of the character. I never dislike, God, no, that's a lie. I did dislike Koba for a bit. I don't truly, like, hate or really dislike Koba. They just kind of, you know, again, they injected a little more life into these characters. Didn't necessarily improve my opinion of her, but I kind of have the solid opinion that she's not one of the more interesting couples, but she's a good character. Honestly, I don't know where I'd rank this couple if I like had a couple ranking. All I know is it'd be close to, if not the bottom, honestly. It's somewhere with Umi and Sasa as kind of meh. It's kind of meh in terms of the couples. In the fact that it's not that I hate them, I just like the other ones more. But yeah, anyway, we're kind of be diving into Aki's free time events this episode, and these are the ones I was particularly excited for. Because, honestly, when it comes to these free time events, a character who really kind of had a case of lack of spotlight was Aki. We saw a grand total of one cherry event with her. We got a grand total of one sequence of cherry events with her. So I don't really have the strongest opinion of her. I think she's an interesting character, but again, like I said in the last episode, I'm looking forward to this because I wonder, because, you know, the two end up falling in love, but we don't ever really see when it seems like Aki might have fallen for Yoka, because it seemed by the point when we got to the concert that her feelings were pretty much solidified, that she seemed to indeed like Yoka, and the free time events that followed after in the following month kind of confirmed that, because it was one of those cherry events. Anyway, yeah, this is a character who I feel kind of really lacked. For one of the characters in a couple, I feel we know like precious little about her, and I don't expect like to get like a backstory by the end of this, but I hope to kind of get more of an opinion on her, because she's still kind of a mystery to me. I guess it's because they kind of came in late. Anyway, let's do this, and yeah. Well, this event is called Maki, so... I gotta say, this isn't necessarily a combination of characters I expected to interact, but you know, even if it's just for brief moments, I feel the more interactions that these characters get between each other, the better, because it kind of shows that all these characters are connected in some sort of thread, even if just knowing characters through association or just even having little interactions with each other. Like, right to this moment, up to this point, Aki has only known Maki, or I guess Seina. I want to try to start using their first names, damn it. has known Sana, I believe I'm using it right, has known Sana through association of, yeah, I believe Miki's the first name of, like, Aihara, I think, so. I'll figure it out at some point, don't worry, guys, but, yeah, but even now they're having a little interaction between each other. It's probably not going to amount to much, or it's not going to be really all that big. I doubt they're going to really become, like, close friends after this, but it just kind of shows, like, little interactions that you don't always expect can be nice. Disciplinary committee demon or school gate card. I think that's actually funny because the first cherry events we get with Koba were I believe called I Fell in Love with the Demon Gate Guard, which is actually a mix of these two. Okay, so Sana is her first name. I'm under the impression that it's last name first with the text, so yeah. Okay, yeah. Here it is, Aki, which is her first name definitely. So it is last name first. So I'm gonna try using the first names a little more, if only because the whole Maki Miki shit is honestly just be like, I should probably try to use the first names of these characters more. Just something I get used to. But then again, I still call Amishime Nidamoto Amishime Nidamoto. So yeah, I'll figure something out. Any quiet, unpopular places? Oh, this is oh, no, this is actually kind of interesting. This is when she was looking for a secret spot for the two of them. So this is before they even found it. Wow, we're going far back because like even just remembering finding the secret spot for these two is a very distant memory in my head. I love this expression, by the way. I don't know why. It's kind of one of the more out there ones, so I have to find it pretty funny. Which is funny because this is actually, I believe, one of the first ones you see Sana do. Yeah, calling her Sana is weird, but I'm just gonna stick to it. Like, I do want to like remember their first names to an extent too. Like, does everyone remember what I called Yuna Tomi or Tumi? that was a weird time. It's wow, I like how it did not take Aki that long to just realize, yep, it's love. You know, that's kind of this kind of interesting question where it's like, it really does make you think. It's like, okay, so it's like, this person definitely is crushing on someone, but what does the other person think? It's that's the kind of interesting question. Heck, even at this point, I don't honestly think Miki knows how she really thought about Maki's feelings. She just kind of went with the basic, I don't know how I feel about any of this, but let's just be friends first sort of thing. So yeah. I'm actually really looking forward to getting to these two's Apple event, but there's definitely a set of Apple events I want to take care of before we get to that point. And I'm actually not looking forward to them, which kind of sounds bad, but yeah. We'll be getting with those starting next episode. I kind of like that kind of like that line Aki said of like, as long as she doesn't do anything that needs disciplining, which is actually kind of ironic. Well, okay, no, not ironic. It's actually kind of interesting that she says that, considering later Maki literally almost beats the shit out of some kid. Yeah, I'm never forgetting that actually happened, by the way. Yeah, it actually is kind of surprising for her to say, because like, because it's like, you're almost encouraging contradictory behavior. Like, I know that's not what she's trying to do, and I know it's not what she's trying to do, and it's and ultimately, Maki would never do anything too bad. Maki would never do anything too bad, just even with this information. She's not like a bad kid. It's at the, it is kind of interesting because it's like it almost sounds like you're promoting behavior contradictory to the fact that you're on the disciplinary committee. Those last lines are actually very interesting. It's also kind of I'd say it's decent foreshadowing, but it's not foreshadowing anything. You can only see these events after the game's over. But it's kind of like interesting because one, it brings up the fact that it mentions that Aihara or like Miki, she undertakes a lot of she takes on a lot of shit, more than she should, frankly. Like more than what should be considered good, but yeah. Anyway, there's a new event here. Yep. I'm seeing a trend. I'm seeing a trend. This one's mostly just names, I think, but anyway, that was actually an interesting little interaction between the two. And I do like that whole case of Aki almost seemingly breaking like again when she was like saying that, like almost like motivating Maki to go find an unpopular place. Just again, like I said, it sounds like it almost sounds like a conflict of interest, because you're saying this, which is almost promoting behavior that needs disciplining, but you're on the disciplinary committee. So it's interesting, but it doesn't quite feel like she's breaking character doing that. It feels like it's just like this is another part of her. Like she's, because like because like she has this extreme like she has this air of like extreme seriousness and very much being a disciplinarian, if that's even a word. You know what I'm trying to say. But like but yeah, it's interesting seeing kind of parts of your character. She's one of the more interesting. I feel Aki's one of the more interesting characters, if only because like she has. It's kind of this weird thing that she does where she does things or says things that sometimes seem like they should be out of character for her, but they aren't. Like with the events in October. With Yoka, like that is like that is what I would be called behavior that would need disciplining if you're caught. Yet it doesn't seem too out of character for her to do something. It doesn't really seem out of character for her to do something like that. Or maybe I'm just desensitized because the end game really lays it on thick, the whole becoming one thing. But yeah, she's an interesting character. I can't quite put my finger on why, but she definitely is an interesting character. Maybe partly because she's such an enigma in the main story. But I do like that little trait, like I said, of sometimes saying something that would seem like, oh, okay, I know what it is. Some of the stuff she says and does seems out of character for her archetype, but the way her character is presented, it's not too out of character. Anyway, yeah, I'm spending too much time on this. Francis in quotes here. That's interesting. Uh, okay, so she's known for a while then. All right. Okay, so yeah, okay, so she has so Aki has had feelings for someone else, has had some feelings for someone else in the past. Okay. It's definitely interesting when the game points stuff like this out, because you never really know sometimes. Like, some characters seem like this is the first time they've ever... Some characters, it's like... You can tell when it's the first time a character's felt love when they say things like they're not sure what this feeling is, or they're kind of confused, or they just... Again, they just pretty much state they have no clue what this feeling is. So it's kind of interesting. Because, like, again, even with Miki, you could very clearly tell that was probably the first time she's fallen in love, considering how she reacted to the whole thing. Umi too. So you can tell this was the first time these characters had experienced love. And Adley Koba in the last episode, or just in general, you could tell that was the first time she's felt love for someone. So it's interesting. Because they never necessarily say if these characters have felt these feelings of affection before. With Aki, it does. With Aki, it states it does. Which is actually also interesting because most characters actually haven't. Now that I think about it, Aki might be the only one. So no, maybe if you want to go back to that Operation Sparkling Sunshine thing, yeah, I have no clue what to feel about. I have no clue how to feel about that one. I guess she was going to return the feelings to her friend before the friend said, "Oh, this was a misunderstanding." So I guess okay. So it was her. Okay, so it was her. Amishima Nina. I don't. Amishima Ninamoto. I guess count for this as yeah they felt that feeling of affection before. It's to each other, but yeah. Okay. Okay, I actually also like the little addendum that okay, it says that I had looked that way at someone before myself, you know. I like how it mentions older sisters of my friends and classmates, kind of showing to the fact that yeah, Aki has pretty much only held affections for women. This was pretty much stated back in their last Cherry event. But it is kind of just kind of re-cementing that. It's like, yeah, this, like, yeah. And the reason I find stuff like this interesting is, like, other characters, we don't necessarily know their sexual orientation. It's at the very least bi for most of these characters, if not just straight out lesbian. But this is one of the first times where they're really just kind of like, some characters, they don't know how they feel about this. Sometimes, they don't know how they feel about this, and you know, with some characters, it's the first time they're feeling love, and you really don't know what anyone's like sexual orientation truly is, because for all we know, some of these characters are just bi and we don't think about it. But it is kind of putting the full emphasis here that Aki seems to have only ever had affection for women. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of an interesting detail. I do find the detail if you couldn't tell, I find the details that are talked about with some characters, but not all, kind of interesting because it kind of gives them something that the others don't. So yeah. And it says like it wasn't clear to me what I was feeling at the time. Of course, now it is like. That can actually have a few interesting meanings when you think about it. Like, is it more like her saying now in hindsight she realizes it was love for these people, or is she kind of saying that she's feeling the same way towards Koba, And now she kind of knows it as love. Kind of, yeah, some things to think about, honestly. Okay. This is actually kind of interesting. My personal interest in and affection for the student Kobayoko swelled up inside me in that moment when my laughter burst out. As continuing swelling my chest, almost suffocating even now. So it seems like, yeah, even as early as this, even as early as, like, before the two even became friends, she may have had, like, a mild affection for her. And now that they're friends, it's growing. So, yeah, interesting, actually. But positively, she's pure. But negatively, she's an idiot. This is actually kind of a cute scene for Aki, actually. It does show that there's more to her than just kind of the whole, like, discipline, like, I'm a member of the disciplinary committee sort of thing. Like, it shows that, like, you know, like, she's saying, like, you're a rocker, so I was wondering if you weird side appears to. She's saying all this stuff, trying to sound professional, but she's just bullshitting it. It's kind of interesting because again, it kind of shows more of like a I guess a break from the expectation of her character. Man. This is kind of the thing with like with Kiri too, actually, where I had this really my first opinion of her, my kind of first impression and opinion of her was, this kind of like almost intellectual type, kind of no nonsense serious character. Then you see her flip her shit. Then you see her flip her shit in the cherry events, and you realize, oh, okay, that maybe my first impression's wrong. It's not nearly as bad here, and actually, the banter interaction between these two is actually kind of adorable. But I actually kind of like, I do kind of like it when it gives me this impression of this character, and it kind of breaks it a little bit. Again, I had a feeling. I think I brought it up. Like, I think I joked earlier in the LP, like, oh, she's gonna be like secretly crazy or something like that. And while not the case, she does like, it's interesting. I'll say that. I like how it kind of like gave me all these expectations of the character, because admittedly, when I first saw her, I kind of thought it was going to be like, oh, it's one of those yin-yang conflicting personality types, and that she was going to be a bit of a square. But she's actually a very interesting character, and I think she's interesting, and I like, and again, the fact that these Apple events are injecting more life into these characters, it makes me like them more. Oh, and this kind of goes into the every once in a while why she's just randomly laughing too, actually. Because it's kind of one of these things where it's like, she's super attentive and like very focused on small details, like Aki is, and Koba isn't. So it's very interesting, because it's kind of like these things with Aki's like, I kind of hope she didn't notice that. And of course she did. Of course Yoka didn't, so she's just kind of left laughing. Again, it kind of goes into that whole thing of like, it's positively she's pure, negatively she's an idiot. And I guess this is kind of this couple is kind of actually like kind of charming. It is a very interesting couple, and again, these events have helped me think a higher opinion of it. Where it is probably I'd probably rank it above Umi and Sasa. Seriously, like that Umi and Sasa, that couple was cute for the time. And I guess it was also a kind of another case of Sasa being kind of like, her feelings for Umi kind of contradicting what we seemed to have known about her. I kind of tend to like characters like that, kind of break my expectations in a good way, and kind of like break the mold of their archetype. But after they kind of got together, it kind of went downhill after they got together. Funnily enough. Where this couple, at least I was actively more engaged the entire time. This counts for main story too, so yeah. Yeah. Events like these are actually really cool for the characters. It gives them more life, and I really hope that I can like Umi and Sasa more after all this shit's said and done. Back to names. This time it's Tomi or Yuna. This is probably her last free time event, hopefully. I kind of get how Yuna can sometimes find some stuff like this easier. How she's really efficient with a lot of things when it comes to cooking. If only because when you do something long enough, or you're really passionate about something, you learn just kind of little tips and tricks to make. You learn just kind of little tips and tricks to just kind of make things easier for yourself, or just simpler. Yeah, sometimes with a hobby, you can like you could sometimes really like to challenge yourself, but there's also just times where it's like learning more efficient little tips and tricks to just kind of make things easier. And you know, when you've learned the little kind of tricks like that, they can also be applied to more challenging things, like maybe something that was incredibly daunting when you first started out doing something is made easier because you know, more experience, more skill, and maybe because of the little things you do to help increase your own efficiency. So yeah. I'm not like saying this to decredit what Yuna's saying. Again, this is probably why she finds these things interesting, kind of easy or efficient. I'm honestly very impressed. I know I couldn't do something like that when it came to cooking, or at least I'd have a lot harder of a time doing so. That's the kind of interesting, kind of Aki's very kind of like, ability to notice small things, like her attentiveness, I guess is what you would say. Because like she's noticing things. She's noticing things that us as the player pretty much had to have explained to us almost. Maki's affections for Miki. She figured that out. Pretty quickly. The fact that Yuna's actually limiting her own ability and not actively hanging out with people, she noticed that too. And of course, Koba's failings. She also kind of acknowledged because like she also kind of acknowledged and figured out pretty quickly. So it's interesting because like people like this do exist. It's not like, oh, it's the writers made this unrealistic. No, people with this kind of much attention to detail do exist that could figure out things like this really quickly. So it's interesting that they have a character like that in here, and that they were able to kind of incorporate her correctly, or at least made it so it wasn't like she could predict everything. I think that's maybe another reason why she has like a lot of interest for Yoka, actually, because Yoka, like, she has a good sense of how Yoka's character works, but even then Yoka's also kind of a wild card. Like she can't really know exactly what to expect from Yoka all the time. So yeah. Wow. Wow, ice cream can be used to get ice cream can be used as a trick for getting information. Who would have thought? You know, I kind of like that little thing she said earlier, is the kind of like beating around the bush didn't agree with me. This kind of goes into the, and how she has like a very, how Aki kind of has a kind of blunt matter of speaking. I feel also kind of goes into like, if you kind of like beat around the bush or talk on subtlety about some things, you're just wasting, depending on the person, you're just wasting time, which she doesn't like doing. So it's like, again, Aki really just kind of does things with efficiency in mind. So it's kind of interesting. That's actually kind of an interesting weapons analogy, because it's kind of like, the common analogy I've seen with weapons is kind of like, they could be used to help people or to hurt people, depending on how you see it. But I actually kind of like this analogy of, like, they can be very useful tools, but the second you have your doubts, they become a lot harder to wield, because it is actually just kind of true. It is actually just kind of true to life. You can be a capable fighter. You could be an extremely capable fighter and extremely confident in your skill, and you can be an extremely capable fighter, but the second you doubt your ability, you just kind of like, the second you doubt your ability to do something is kind of when you stop being able to do it. Your abilities almost limit themselves because you don't think you're going to win anyway. Or at least with things like competition and fighting. If you're not confident in your ability, you've already lost, because it's almost your brain's kind of way of thinking of, hey, if you're not going to win anyway, don't even try. So yeah. Ah, okay. This is a very interesting line. I might have fallen for her if I'd met her before Yoka. Okay. So yeah, this is kind of an interesting thing, and I like how she uses the word like interesting. Not that she particularly likes people or dislikes people, but is intrigued by other people, it seems. And yeah, it also just kind of like, yeah, this also kind of confirms that, yeah, she definitely by this point already had feelings for Yoka, which is, again, and kind of something I would have noticed by the fact that when Yoka told her about the confession contract, she didn't freak out. It's because she had feelings already. Like, so yeah. Hopefully that's the last one. I don't need more of these going over an hour. God damn it! Love is fun. Alright, let's dive into this. Oh, and this is also before the confession concert, so alright, here we go. Clicked on the right one, hopefully. Yeah, this is going to be another one of those over an hour episodes. A surprise confession that the confessor unwittingly gave notice of. So yeah, okay. It was. This is pretty much just kind of confirming that, yeah, she definitely has feelings for. She's definitely had feelings for Yoka, and that's why she was just looking forward to this confession concert. For her, it was kind of a matter. I feel for her, it's kind of a matter of her kind of like. It kind of feels like, in my opinion, that, that, you know, since it's clear that she's had feelings for Yoka for a while, that for her it's more of a what am I trying to say? She's probably looking forward to this because she feels like that's probably the time when she can act on her own feelings. So yeah. Because right now she's, you know, she has these feelings, but she's kind of holding off and kind of like not letting them show. Of course, because, you know, it's like, you know. But now that Yoka's essentially said that she's like ready to admit these feelings she's felt for a while now, Aki's probably like looking forward to that, because then she can share her own feelings. So yeah, hopefully all that made sense. And we still got in October? Jesus. Time is love. Alright, okay. Please tell me, like, this is just a longer than usual episode, right? Anyway. Okay. I was like, for a second, I was like, wait, is she like nervous about something? Is she just like humming to herself? Like, nope, okay, this is what's going on. I like how Aki still seems completely composed after all that. Cope is just like, yeah, I was gonna say, Aki, you're kind of surprisingly forward, aren't you? well, like, you know, I was saying things about like, oh, kind of like sometimes she does things that they don't seem out of character. No, this one's just kind of out of character. This one just seems out of character. Like, she does things that should seem out of character but aren't. No, this one's a little bit on the out of character side. But, you know, it's not bad. It's not like a complete 180 on her personality. This is kind of interesting, actually. Kind of like this. It's interesting that she sees this kind of side of herself and like seems to like kind of the side of herself, her lust for yoga. She's acknowledging it and still kind of like giving herself reprimand for it. It's interesting because with characters who would be stereotypically the perv, Kiss for the Petals is actually a really good example for this. You don't see stuff quite like that with you don't quite see stuff like that with characters. So it's interesting when you kind of see moments like this where it's like where they're saying, where they're kind of like, it also kind of like, what am I trying to say here? With other characters that are typically like the perv character, like in Kiss for the Petals, for example, with Yuna's actually a really good example of this. You see, they're just that archetype, and they kind of stay with it. You see maybe some hints of maybe you see maybe you see maybe some hints with like other characters in Kiss for the Petals, like maybe I'm taking this a step too far, but you generally don't. So it's actually interesting seeing this. All right, slight TMI there, Aki. Maybe reel it back a little bit. I think the reason this is very interesting for Aki is because it's actually hella ironic. Or it's like, again, this like, this is actually very ironic, considering the kind of the initial first impression of her is probably that, oh, she's the kind of like, she's the honor student type, and then she's doing stuff like this, and it's like, ooh. It kind of goes to just kind of like I'm reminded a little bit, again, Kiss for the Petals comes to mind, because that's pretty much the only other Yuri romance game I've played besides this one. And I'm actually reminded quite a bit of Yuna, honestly, because Yuna is also kind of the type of like honor student who's like the honor student type, but is hiding something underneath the surface. The difference here is I feel Aki's a better written character. Yeah, I know that's kind of something to say, and I really hope that the I believe it's the 5th Kiss for the Petals that we see a follow up to Yuna and Nanami. That week, I really hope then I can get a better opinion of that couple, because I don't have the highest opinions of that couple. I just don't think much of it. Certainly my least favorite, but yeah. I love how she just said I need to I need to control myself a bit more, and now this is like clearly one sentence went straight to the recycling bin in her brain. Well, I thought it interesting how they said like she pretty much knows like the schedule in her head at this point. And with that, we're done. So, yeah. Ultimately, I have a higher opinion of the couple now. I'm glad for, frankly. Honestly, it's an alright couple. Again, I need to like I don't necessarily have a rating for the couples in my head. They definitely have kind of scaled up there. They're definitely pretty good. Here's the thing. They're still kind of gonna be in the bit of the bottom though. Like, Amishima and Inamoto is kind of is down there in the bottom too, if only because the whole fight made that relationship a mess for a while, and they didn't really have much time before or after that to give me really a strong opinion of them. And then there's Umi and Sasa, which like that one is just a victim to very poor timing, because you know it takes so long for them to get there, and then in August, you, like, never see them again. After August, you pretty much never see them again. And then it's like, but yeah, you might say by that time there's only like 2 months left of the story. That's actually a pretty long time, all things considered. Considering you have to think of all the main story sequences that are happening that are kind of long, and then you also have to take into account, all the cherry events, which add just more time onto it. So it's kind of sad that that couple is the first one to end, and it really shows. All right. Speaking of Umi and Sasa, we're gonna be taking care of them next time. I don't know which one I'm gonna do first, but I'll figure it out. So next time on Kindred Spirits on the Roof, we'll be going on with that. See you guys then.